Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Herschel Talkers. We've been on hiatus for 7-8 months, and we're finally back for a brand new season, coming off a great season where Georgia was defeated in the national championship game by Alabama 26-23. Had a great year last year. Rose Bowl was one of the best of all time.
Probably want to rephrase that.
But we got Big Sean on the phone and special guest. We got our boy Derrick, who's a big Georgia fan. We always see him at the Georgia Bar kickstands here in Charlotte. How we doing today, Derrick?
Good. How are y'all doing?
How we doing today, Sean?
I mean, I'm alive.
Here we go. Hey, big things for us. Hey, Sean got a new house. I got a new house. We're grown-ups now. So that was a big thing. I don't know why I want to throw that in there. But we're going to jump right in. So Georgia, first game of 2018, defeated Austin Peay 45-0. Pretty much a beatdown. Derrick watched it in Nashville, Tennessee at a Georgia bar, which is cool. I believe Sean, whatever he was doing at home, probably drinking beers. And I actually watched it in New York City at the Georgia bar. There's around probably 200 alumni there. It's really cool. I think it was like West 30th Street. How was the Nashville Georgia fans there in Nashville, Derrick?
They were good. A lot younger of a crowd, but it was the space. Always good to see Georgia fans filling out the space that they're given. So it was definitely a lot of chanting and a lot of loud cheering going on, definitely at the Georgia bar there in Nashville.
Awesome. It's always great to watch it at some different venues. Also, Derrick saw our boy Dan. Dan made an appearance in Nashville, surprisingly, so that was cool. A little Charlotte to Charlotte there.
Duck face Dan.
Dan's cool, man. Let's jump right in. So 45-0. I thought Fromm looked really good. Was it 12 of 16, like 157, 2 touchdowns. James Cook surprisingly good. I think he had like 66 yards second mound. DeAndre Swift running game looked great. Defense looked great anytime you get a shutout. So just want to get your opinions on the highlights and the positives and negatives from the week one. You can go ahead, Derrick.
The positives was definitely we are definitely deep when it comes to quarterback. Fromm, you definitely can tell they're going to let him open it up a little bit more downfield, I think, than they did last year, which will definitely open up the run game because teams aren't going to be able to stack the box as much on us with Fromm throwing the ball. But at the same time, I think Justin Fields is going to give us another dynamic when it comes to things like running the wild dog. Because of last year, we did a really good job when running it, but there was never that fear of we were really going to throw it. This year, you can put in Justin Fields, and that just opens up a whole other can of worms for defenses to have to try to tackle us. And I think Swift is going to be really good. James Cook, I think Cook is going to be really quick. I think what's going to hurt us this week a little bit is him only being able to play second half. And I think one of the other things that I took from this week is I think our defense has a few holes with it being younger that they'll get better as the season goes on, but that was really some of the things that I picked up on.
How about you, Sean? What you got there, bud?
No, obviously, I think the biggest positive is we won 45-0, right? So, I mean, that in and of itself says something. I think that, from what I really saw as a positive was, I think the secondary to me looked as good as I think it's ever looked, to be completely honest. A lot of people were, talking about, I think there was a lot made about Richard LeCount and comments that Kirby made about him in the media. But I'll be honest with you, to me, like, as between him and D'Angelo Gibbs, who was the other big defensive back we got in that class, I thought Gibbs looked, just phenomenal, especially for a guy that didn't even play the first quarter. I think he came in the second quarter. I mean, he was all over the field making plays. I noticed, too, that that freshman cornerback that we got, he actually stepped up and played.
Tyson Campbell?
Yeah, Tyson Campbell played
yes, sir.
Well in coverage. And really, it looked like we had guys blanketed down the field. But I kind of echo some of what Derrick's saying as far as the defense goes as well. It looked like we had a little bit of holes. I mean, we knew Roquan was going to be really hard to replace, but I think we saw that as well. A lot of those plays where they'd be a running back or, a quarterback would get by that initial defensive line. Roquan was right there, a yard or two after the line of scrimmage to tackle him. I think he saw them, this go around, they were, 3 yards after the fact, and a lot of times it was Monty Rice. So I think having somebody that can inevitably fill that void is going to be big. And I'll be honest, too, and I think that it kind of, it's picking back on what Kirby said in his post-game conference. It looked like our run game between the tackles was a little inconsistent. Like on that first scoring drive we had, we kind of stalled out in the red zone. And so I think going into South Carolina, we're definitely going to need them to be just more dominant up front and to open up holes. Because, we don't have Sony and Chubb this year to kind of, power things through. So, and as you mentioned, we've got what's his name, the freshman running back. He's going to be on for the first half against South Carolina, Cook. And we already know Zamir White's done for the year. So, it's important that that offensive line kind of steps up and handles business against South Carolina.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess another one that was positive was 3 penalties for 40 yards. One of them was the targeting by James Cook. So penalty wise, they were really disciplined. Really didn't turn the ball over. Another thing that I noticed as a positive is just the speed out there. So Cole Hardman just kicks another gear in. You got Demetrius Robinson, on the I think over 70-yard run down the field on his first touch, and just Crumpton. Looks speedy. So just like this is the most, I don't know for you guys, the most speed that I've seen in a while. Just like anybody just can take it to another level. And then also what I want to mention is, 45-0. And then I've never seen it before. You might have got to know, I've never seen a shortened game by Georgia game by 5 minutes, which was, I didn't even notice that. Like I was at the bars really loud, but I was like, wow, this is a quick quarter already. And it was down to like 9 something. So I know that was pretty much a mercy rule, which maybe it was cool by Kirby, but I think we could probably got another touchdown in that in the 50s. But
oh, for sure.
Just the speed.
I think that the reason for that was that because I think it was because of the Cook helmet to helmet thing. I think it caused an injury.
Yeah.
So by rule, if the game was out of hand, they could shorten it to prevent further injuries.
Yeah.
Well, they had a couple other players get hurt because of I think the heat had something to do with it too, because one of their star linemen got hurt, and after that, that's when the coach was going over talking to Kirby about trying to shorten it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting. And then it's 45-0. I think we got to play a lot of players. I think they said they played 82 out of the 105, one of the most, which was great. But everybody just got a little bit of experience. If I had to get real nitpicky, saying what you just said is, I think I noticed that too. Running in between the tackles, you don't have that like Brahma Bull as we had with like Chubb and Michelle. That's another question, and we'll get into the breakdown in a little bit. But I think we're definitely going to need that against South Carolina. But yeah, just running in between tackles. And I guess sometimes on defense we miss some tackles to get real nitpicky. They extended some plays that normally against a team like that, you should stop them. I think they stalled out inside the 20 on one drive and they missed a field goal. But anytime you shut out a team, you have to do a great job. But Sean was texting me a while back like, what did you grade him? And I gave him a B+ just to be really critical. So I'd say a B+ total on the whole performance.
Yeah, well, and I guess one other positive I'd add in there, I think that it piggybacks on what you said. Yeah, we definitely played a lot of true freshmen, but the thing is they were true freshmen that made plays. Like Adam Anderson was in there. He made a couple big plays late. Brett and
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see him make a tackle, but he was definitely pressuring the quarterback. Otis Reese made a pretty big tackle. And, Tyson Campbell was out there starting, and so he pretty much shut down his side of the field. But, yeah, I mean, we played a lot of young guys, which is, which is big. So.
Yeah, and then.
As far as grading him, yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. I mean, like, I forget how we graded it unit by unit, but, like, I'd probably give the offense, like, maybe an A-, right?
All right.
Just because, again, you had a couple of plays where you stalled. Or maybe you give them a solid A. Like, you give the defense, probably, like, a B+.
Mm-hmm.
You may have to give special teams, like, a C+. Again, I know it's really nitpicky, but you did have, like, the missed field goal, and then you also had the special teams blunder by Cook, which is going to shoot us in the ass this week.
Yeah. All right, so that's a done deal on that 45-0 winner over Austin Peay.
Derrick, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Or how would you grade it?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Definitely on the defense, I would definitely give it a B+. Now, with special teams, I would give it a little bit. I would give more of a right at maybe a B-, because one thing is that punter we have, he averaged 55 yards a punt.
That's awesome.
Like, if he can get that down to where he's keeping that inside the 10-yard line, I mean, that will be huge in some big games. So I was impressed with that. And then on the offense side, I would say right at like an A-. I agree with what you guys are saying on the run back side. Swift, he has that vision, but Holyfield, he has the speed, but sometimes he just doesn't have that vision to hit that hole at the right time.
Yeah.
So I feel like, hopefully it'll come along with him as he's starting more and playing more. But I definitely, Swift is definitely going to be the big back for us this year, I believe.
Agreed.
Yep, I agree. Now we're going to move on we got South Carolina this week at Columbia. Boom Chickens, the Cocks, USC Junior, as Uncle Lou calls them. It's going to be a big matchup. And leading into it, I was nervous about this game. We'll do a breakdown. But looks like there's some trash talking going on. I don't know if anybody read this today. I think Derrick. But Sean, did you hear about this? Debo Samuel talking a little trash. I can tell you the quote here. He was getting interviewed on Tuesday, and he was asked by one of the reporters, "What are your impressions of DeAndre Baker?" Asked the Gamecocks star wide receiver. He goes, "Who?" They go, 18. I think their cornerback, Kendall, informed the stud wide receiver, and he goes, "I haven't really watched much film." He said, "Not really sure who that is." And then to talk about that, so 2016, he had 4 catches for 90 yards in the 2016 game where it was a Hurricane game. We went to that one. So I don't know if he's just trying to be like kind of arrogant or that, but I think that's going to be motivation for especially if DeAndre Baker. I know Samuels and also have the Edwards kid who we can talk about. And then also it was last name Gurley. I think he played for him a while back, and he's like an analyst and he played in the pros. But back in, I think it was media days or one of those, he guaranteed a South Carolina win over Georgia. And from what I heard, I think they printed off over 40-something copies and stuck it up in the weight room, in the Georgia weight room for them to, I guess, when they're working out for motivation. So I thought that was awesome. So, Gamecocks coming in a little cocky, kind of trash talking. And it's minus 9.5 or 10 is the spread. And we're coming in number 3 in the coaches poll and AP poll. So, a lot of people are calling it a trap game. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on the game and the keys to the victory.
Well, I mean, as far as, Samuel's, trash talking goes, I guess there's definitely a distinct possibility that maybe he doesn't know who DeAndre Baker is because he was hurt last year for the game, wasn't he?
So yeah, Samuel broke his leg in the Kentucky game. We played him later, so he wasn't a factor.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess being super generous with that point, right? There's definitely a possibility maybe he doesn't know, but by this point, it's like, come on, like, in all probability, he does know. To me, I don't know, like, to me, talking trash, like, the week before a game, I don't know that it really does much, to be completely honest. If anything else, I think it's more about psyching yourself up than it really is, psyching the other team out. Granted, there's some programs too that's worked for, historically speaking, Miami being one of them. And Steve Spurrier teams tended to do pretty well with that as well. But, at this point, to me, I think it shows more of, having maybe a bit of a chip on your shoulder where maybe it's a little bit in your head, possibly. To me, it's going to be an interesting it's an interesting game, Debo Samuel's aside, because I kind of watched them play a little bit, and they remind me a lot of us last year. Their passing game's a lot of short, intermediate stuff over the middle. I'd say maybe the big difference is that their wide receivers, I think, tend to make a little bit more yards after catch, where we did a lot more fade stuff. But they have two pretty good running backs, a pretty good offensive line. Defense, I guess, is pretty good as well. It's experienced, but it's definitely going to be tough. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's if it's closer than 10 points. If it's a 3-point victory either way. I honestly don't at this point know who's going to win that. I mean, Kirby being Kirby, I think he gets a good game plan together. I think he keeps them focused, but South Carolina looked good in that first game. Derrick, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think some of the keys that are really going to come down to is, what is Chaney and our offense going to call on? Are we going to still do looking for a lot of screens? Are we actually going to throw it down deep against them? I think one of the big things too is again going to be on our defense on when they're running the ball and stuff. Are we going to be missing tackles and stuff? I think that's going to be a big key that we're going to have to be on the game of making those tackles instead of giving that extra 5 yards, because the one thing is their quarterback Jake old Bentley, he's a pretty good quarterback himself. But it will be interesting to see with South Carolina having Brian McClendon, a.k.a. B-Mac, calling all their plays on the offensive side. I am interested to see that, to see how he calls the game for them. But also, must-champ defenses are never easy. So, but the good thing is with Fromm and Swift going in there, I definitely feel the good side on it for us is we have probably some of the best wide receivers all around we've had in a long, long time. So I think that's going to help open up things. And, we shoot Demetrius Robinson out of a cannon again a couple times. That'll definitely help us big time come Saturday.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, too. The one thing I noticed, too, in reviewing, South Carolina stats, it looked like they gave up in the passing yards. I think it was, over 6 yards a pass.
Right.
So, to me, that says they've got some coverage issues, which I think we can exploit. I mean, and again, we have a ton of weapons. I mean, even, we won 45-0 last week, so it's easy to not notice a lot of players that are out with injuries. But, on top of having, Roberson and Miko Hardman and Akil Crumpton and those guys out there, we're getting Terry Godwin back as well. So that's a lot of weapons you can throw out there and spread them out with. I think what's going to be key, too, is, again, like Kirby said, we kind of need our offensive line to just step up and kind of impose its will so that our running backs can get in the end zone. We can't really stall out. If it becomes an ugly game, watch out. And again, Champ, for everything else, is really good at, making games ugly. I think the other thing, too, is our secondary. They're going to have to pretty much, they're going to have to do what they've done. But, you're going to want to limit, yards after reception and things like that. Because it seems like that's a lot of what they scored on against, Coastal Carolina was, short pass and taking it long. And then obviously, we're going to have to watch we're going to have to watch out for the running game as well, because they have two pretty good running backs that averaged over 7 yards a carry. Again, I know it's Coastal Carolina, but it's experienced offensive line. They're starters. And again, we kind of, showed a little bit of them we got exploited a little bit, I guess, if you're going to say anything against Austin Peay. So, you got to try to make them one-dimensional.
I will say I'm pretty excited to see the matchup of our offensive line against a better, more legit defense. Austin Peay being a school, because the one thing is with our offensive line, even when we were second and third string, those dudes were not getting through that line. So, we have argued with one of the best offensive lines in the nation. And I really am interested to see what they're going to do against a closer opponent.
Agreed.
So that's going to be interesting. And then also, South Carolina's defense gave up 130 rushing yards against Coastal Carolina. So it's also going to be interesting to see if we can, our offensive line, if they can manhandle that front, then, the sky's the limit for what Swift's going to do on the field.
That's right, and it's still Muschamp, who, other than that one phantom win with Florida, has never beaten Georgia. So,
Hey,
he's our double agent.
Hey, Will Muschamp works for UGA. He is, I think, 1-5, 1-6. Also, as you know, Georgia's struggled in Columbia. They call it a house of horrors. They're 5-4 in the last 9 meetings, and before 2 years ago, the Hurricane game, they've lost 3 straight. So I'm gonna go ahead and make my prediction. You guys, here's my keys to victory for them. Is what you just said. I think we're gonna run heavy against them. We're gonna have a good mix, but I'm thinking like 60-40 run against pass. Of course, we're gonna pass a little bit, but I don't think they're gonna be able to stop our rushing attack because they got the weak defensive line. Also, is the big test. What we mentioned earlier is they have Deebo Samuel and Brian Edwards, who's like 6'3", 220. They're going to test the young secondary, Tyson Campbell, and then DeAndre Baker. I think it's going to help. So I think testing that. And so point spread's 9.5. I got Georgia 28-17. It's going to be close until the fourth quarter, but we get a late touchdown and win at 28-17 in a close dogfight till the very end. But that's my pick.
Oh, man.
Woo!
Derrick,
The woo.
prediction.
I'm gonna. It's close to Trey's. I'm gonna roll with 24-17. Georgia.
So if you're a betting man, you'd take the Cox and the points. Is that what you're saying? 9.5.
Yeah, 9.5 is you're on the road.
Yep.
3:30.
It's gonna be hot.
It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be loud. Your first road game and the first big college game for a lot of these guys on Georgia this year. So
Yeah.
It usually takes a quarter or so to kind of get into the game and everything because you got the nerves going, being in that kind of atmosphere. So, because when that sandstorm hits, I hate to say it, but it ain't no joke at the start because they do get rowdy.
Oh yeah.
Being on the road in the SEC, that's never an easy feat.
I agree.
That's true.
All right, Sean, what you got there, bud?
Man, I think it's going to be closer than that. I'm going to say 20-17 Georgia.
Wow, we're gonna get 2 field goals. We're gonna get a Blankenship field goal to win. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so.
I can see that because it's always a dogfight there.
Yeah, and again, I think to piggyback on what obviously the ultimate key to any game, as Trey's heard me say time and again, you got to score more points than the other team. But I think we are young at some spots, so you're probably gonna that's probably good for a mishap or two, especially with some of those younger guys getting jitters in. Plus, first snap jitters for some of those, role players that are, coming in and playing some meaningful snaps. But again, I think that, I think our defense. I think especially too after halftime, the one thing that Mel and Kirby have consistently shown is they're really great with second half adjustments. So if you're kind of toasting us in the first half, it's rare that you're going to see them toast us again in the second half. Oklahoma was kind of a perfect example of that. So, I could maybe even see us going down, maybe 4 at half or whatever, and then I just think we kind of we just kind of coast in the second half. Again, I think our depth is going to be a big problem for them. There's just so many weapons out there, too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And just at the end of the day, like Sean's like to say, is we would have, 17 5-stars, or it could be saying it wrong. I just think at the end of the day, it comes down at the very end. If it's close, we got more athletes than them. I know it's in a hostel, and you just outplay them, and we have good coaching. It's not like back in the day, Rick gets outplayed. They don't get him up. I think Kirby, like Sean's always said, he's pretty much gotten them up for all the games. So I just think, at the end of the day, you got more. You got more tools in the shed. You got more horses in the stable.
That's right.
All right, so we're going to jump in. We got all three across the board beating the Gamecocks, Boom Chickens. We're going to do 2018 breakdown. We didn't get to do it last week. I'll go. You want to go? How about we'll go game by game, wins, loss, and we can even do a tweener game, and then at the very end, I'll give your total prediction for wins and losses. All right, so we just did South Carolina. All right, so next week we got Middle Tennessee State at home. What you guys got on that? You can just say wins or loss if you want.
Can we skip the ones we know are going to be wins?
All right, let me get to the tweener games who everybody's talking about. How about this? All right, a lot of people say at Missouri could be at Columbia. You got Drew Lock, could be a trap game. You're going to have at LSU, at Baton Rouge, who put the whooping on Mark Rick last week in Miami. Could be a lot closer. You got Waterboy with his back against the wall. Could be a tough game. Could be a night game. And then I'm going to throw Auburn in there just because they are pretty good. Had a big win against Washington. And then also, I think because it's Georgia, Florida, always throw that in there. But I think we're looking pretty. But anyway, give me your thoughts on those guys' prediction. And maybe give a prediction at the end for wins or losses. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sean. Jump out there.
Okay, to me, the only potential tweener games on the schedule are South Carolina. Because, again, I think it's probably going to be the most talent that we're going to face all year. But, again, I think we win that one by 3. LSU, they looked good against Miami. But, again, it's a Mark Richt coach team. So they could have just been really unprepared. More remains to be seen. But other than that, to me, it's Auburn. We got them at home. Other than that, I think we run the table. I think going to the SEC title game, to me, it depends on who we play. And, obviously, the help of those teams are like. I mean, beating Alabama with that Tulalele kid's going to be tough. I mean, he really reminds me of Steve Young, when you watch him play.
Hey, a black Steve Young? Can we say that?
Or a Samoan Steve Young.
Yeah.
I think it's probably what he is. Especially with that last name. It's not like Jackson.
Yeah.
But
he said a Samoan Steve Young.
But dude, that kid carves people up. They got some wide receivers for days.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think if we run the table, maybe lose close to Alabama, we still get into the playoffs. I don't know. Auburn, to me, doesn't so much worry me unless if they develop a running game. But, again, I think other than that, South Carolina's the only one I'm really worried about at this point.
So are you saying 12-0, Sean? Are you putting your neck out there?
Yeah, I'm going to say 12-0.
All right, there you go.
There's no reason they shouldn't go 12-0.
Let me woo on it. Woo! All right, go ahead. All right, Derrick.
The Missouri game, that game doesn't scare me. To me, I'm just shocked that people are, it's going to be such a trap game. They're the same Missouri team they were last year. They have a quarterback and no defense. Unless Drew Lock is playing in the secondary and defense and everything else in between, they're not beating us.
In other words, to quote Bill Parcells, what you're afraid of is snakes, spiders, and the IRS.
But I think my biggest trap game is going to be LSU. Because the one thing is with LSU is their offense didn't look the greatest, but their defense looked really good. Again, it was against Miami, but sometimes that's all you need is a big win like that on the road to build confidence in a team. And we're going to be playing at LSU, and hopefully it's probably going to be a night game if CBS doesn't pick it up at 3:30. So it is a night game. I mean, playing in Baton Rouge on the road, that one's going to be closer than you think. I think we still come away with it, but that one's going to be very close. And then the only other one I have, I don't see any way of us. I know it being a rivalry game, with Florida. I just don't, we picked apart Dan Mullen's team last year in Mississippi State. So I think we do the same thing to them in Gainesville. So I don't see it being this year.
Yeah, they're going to get thumped on for a while.
Right. And then Auburn is the other one. The good thing is it being at home. But same thing Sean said that, Auburn doesn't really have a running game right now. But that's not to say that, something doesn't come about. But I want to say we're going to run the table. I just don't see it. So I say we stumble maybe against Auburn and lose by 3. But I'm calling 11-1, and then I think we get to the SEC championship. Now, what entails, is it going to be Auburn again, or is it going to be Bama? So I think that's really what comes down to it. If it's Bama, if we're able to somehow figure out a way to stop their rocket throwing quarterback, that kid throws more spirals 50 yards than I've ever seen of any quarterback on target. But that's here nor there. So the biggest keys is,
that kid's ridiculous.
Yeah, 100%. But the one thing I will say is I think this year is the first year that we could officially say our offensive line can go toe-to-toe, in my opinion, with Bama's defensive line. So, and I think that's something, because don't forget, by the time we would get to an SEC title game, and if it's against Bama, we don't just have Fromm, we also have Justin Fields that's going to have a lot of experience up until then, to where everyone knows Nick Saban hasn't been the best when facing against a dual-threat quarterback. So not only do we have Fromm, but then we also have those sneaky plays with Justin Fields, and who knows, might spark some magic in the upset in the SEC championship game.
So they got you 11-1, Derrick?
Yep.
Okay.
Trey's probably got us at 9-4.
Hey, you calling me? Hey, am I Disney dog or Doomsday dog? I've been the Sean's been.
We're gonna give you a new name. We're gonna give you Chicken Shit Dog, because everything scares you.
Woo! Oh, here we go. I'm gonna say Missouri. I don't know if Sean mentioned this, and hey, you got Drew Lock, probably one of the best ones. But also, who do you have at offensive coordinator? Derrick Dooley. That's all I got to say right there. God awful. So we'll punch them in the mouth on the road. Don't have to worry about them. Florida, like I said, Dan Mullen, we're going to punch them in the mouth. The one that I'm scared about, and here it is, I'm going to go ahead and give us the L because it's hard to go undefeated, is at LSU. It's the 7th game, maybe a little banged up. Also, the last 2 times, I hate to say this, Kirby has gone on the road against a West team, got the wheels blown off by Ole Miss in 2016, and also got blown out by Auburn. So if there was a game that we would have to drop possibly, is LSU. Maybe just ran out of gas, a little banged up. It is on the road. It's going to be a hostile environment. And that's okay, because I like that. It gives you that motivation. It kind of humbles you. Like Kirby says, humility is a week away, so you actually need that loss because it's just hard to go 12-0, get them up every week. And then possibly Auburn. If it wasn't Jordan Hare, I'd be scared again, but I actually like them, like what you said, stopping the run. I think we got a little bit better athletes. They do have a great defensive line, so I'm going to go 11-1. Not really to say anything about Alabama yet. We're looking down the barrel. But another thing I question about, Alabama looked great. Tua kind of fragile when he gets hit, and can he make it through the 12-game grind of the SEC and some of these other teams, because they're going to be keying on him. And I did notice last week, if I had to get really, really nitpicky, he does seem to roll out and kind of make plays. He's a little errant on some of his throws. He can throw some dimes, right? He can throw it everywhere. But he's got that little kind of Brett Favre gunslinger mentality. I can see him maybe throwing stuff in coverage just to make a play instead of being conservative. So if I had to get nitpicky on that. So anyway, 11-1 is my prediction on that. So if they can go through and do all that, we should have a Bama Georgia repeat in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz.
Man.
All right, now we're going to jump in and make some picks. We got good slate of games. I guess it's decent. Last week was probably a little better, but they just seem a little weaker this week. There's a lot of blowouts. I'm going to throw some of these at you, and you can give me predictions in the spread. All right, so we're going to jump at Clemson against Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher, which is interesting, at Texas A&M. Some of the spreads I've seen are 11.5 or 12, so you're going to get your picks on that. Clemson, looked great last week, and Texas A&M had a big win too, or actually a blowout win. So, what you guys think on that?
I'm going to take.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Derrick. Go ahead.
So the interesting thing will be how long does Bryant play the whole game, or does Trevor Lawrence come in a little bit and they go back and forth?
AKA Sunshine?
You know, the whole Sunshine. Also, only playing against A&M, Jimbo sometimes finds a way to get the guys ready for a big game. So I think it's going to be closer than I think it's going to be closer than what they think. I think it's going to be a one-score game, either be a touchdown or a field goal. I think Clemson wins, but I think it's going to be real close.
Okay, so you got Clemson winning, but you take Texas A&M in points. Okay, how about you, Sean? Does Jimbo got anything for Dabo?
I think Dabo's just got too much. I think factor in Trevor Lawrence, factor in all the experience coming back on defense. Yeah, I don't know. I still think it's a year away. I'm going to take Dabo in the points.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close at first, but also another thing about Texas A&M, they haven't played really well at home recently. Been a really bad home team. Like I said, I agree with that. I think Clemson's got too much talent. Trevor Lawrence just slinging around the yard. I like them 35-21, close in the first half, but pulling away at the end. Just too many athletes. All right, the second win is Kentucky against Florida. 31-game winning streak. Dan Mullen going against Kentucky. You got Florida at the Swamp -14. Can Kentucky snap the streak, or is this just another L and it'll continue to 32?
I think it's going to be another L, unfortunately, because I, more than anybody, would love to watch the Jort-wearing Gators lose. But Kentucky, even with Dan Mullen coming in, taking over a depleted Gator team, they still have more athletes than Kentucky does. Of course, Kentucky still has a good running back, but
Benny Snell.
Paul Snell. I just think it's going to be too much for them. And I've got the Jort-wearing Gators winning 28-14, unfortunately.
So would it be a push, or would you take Kentucky in the points, or push, as they call it?
I'm going to go push.
All right, Sean, what you got? Mullen versus who's the new coach for Mississippi State? Kid out of what's his name? Anyway, they put up 63 last week without Fitzgerald. Another thing, remember Fitzgerald got suspended for the game, so he'll be making his season opener. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's Mississippi State. I'm sorry. Wrong game. Forget that. Anyway, Kentucky against Florida. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry.
I don't know, man. I might take. I think Kentucky, but it's going to be close by maybe 3.
Oh, you got them winning? Woo! Yeah. All right. Going out on a limb there. I like it. I hear you, man. All right, next one's going to be, just because it's ranked, probably 2 highest ranked teams. You got USC against Stanford. Stanford -4.5. I think you got it's Pac-10. Well, they're ranked. Well, what's the kid's name? Love out there? I think he struggled last week. Stanford.
Yeah, he rushed for 50 yards, I think. Right. Not a good one.
All right, well, go ahead and just make a pick then, if anybody cares. Who's USC got? They have who's even their coach now? I should know that. You might know.
He was a coach under
Mitch Helton, right?
Yeah, the tight end coach or whatever.
Yeah, they got anything?
I'm going with USC. Stanford as of late to me, hasn't been showing up, and this goes back into last season and the season before. They don't show up in the big game. When they win all regular games, but when it comes to like USC or Washington or teams like that, they end up not showing up. So I think USC wins. I'm calling 31-21 USC.
Yeah, I got you. I'll go with USC. Stanford usually struggles at home, but yeah, I'll go 28-21, something like that. So yeah, I'd take USC plus 4.5. All right. Anyway, how about you, Sean? Did you make one on that? Give us a guess.
I'm just gonna say USC.
There you go. Nice. All right, we're going to talk about one Derrick was talking about earlier. You got Penn State coming off getting a god-awful scared against App State, is going against Pitt, who won. I think it's at Pitt. It's Pittsburgh, interesting, plus 8.5. Maybe Penn State not as good as everybody think they are. I mean, you're rolling around with App State in overtime. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, shocking. All the experts wanted to see how great the Big Ten is, but the SEC has the most ranked teams. And then some of the foundation teams of the Big Ten struggled last week. Penn State and Michigan losing to Notre Dame, and Michigan State almost losing to a small school. So I have upset alert, but I'm going with Pitt to beat Penn State.
Oh.
Rivalry game at Heinz Field, one of the last meetings they'll have. Pitt with the upset. I have them winning 28-24.
Nice.
I'm actually with Derrick on
like
that
it.
one.
Man, for all you gamblers out there, man.
I think the loss is Saquon Barkley and then that offensive coordinator that's the Mud Dogs coach now. That's going to be problematic.
I like it. All right, one last one. It's interesting. You got I had a brain fart earlier. You got the Fighting Nick Fitzgeralds minus 9.5 against Skeletor. Was it Snyder? Kansas State has one of the best cover the spreads at home. That's the reason why I'm looking at this. Mississippi State minus 9.5 against Kansas State. Kansas State barely beat I think kind of a weaker opponent.
And this is going to be Mississippi State by at least 9.5.
All right, there you go.
What did Fitzgerald get suspended for?
Yeah, he got in trouble. Yeah, I don't know what he did. Seemed like a good kid.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe he was talking to the NCAA.
Hey, I'm going to quote Nate Dawg. You know who I'm talking about? That bag man. He's quoting who that bag man was. Hey, and then I know I'm a Georgia fan. Hey, Kirby's got one hell of a bag man. That's all I'm saying. Keep going there, bud. Hey, and I'm going to leave the last pick because I didn't make a pick early, if you noticed. Hey, Trey's Dog of the Week comes back. Woo! I'm taking Kentucky plus 14. They're not going to win, but go take go take your bookie's money, get that spread. I like Kentucky plus 14, not to win.
Florida?
Yeah, just plus 14 is the spread. Man, you went out on a limb and said they're going to cover all right, but I'm just taking Kentucky and the points are not going to win. That streak's still going to keep going, but I like Kentucky plus 14 in the points.
Okay.
All right, guys, you got anything else to get off your chest before? Hopefully we can all make it down there. I know Sean's on the fence. I'm trying to make it. Derrick's going down there with his girlfriend, who she's also a Gamecocks fan. That's all I'll say about that. Real nice, sweet girl there. That's all I'm going to say is somebody's going to be sad after that. I hate for you to take that ride home. Whoever's win and lost on that one. But any thoughts on the game there? Any last minute thoughts?
I think the other big thing that we can really talk about too would be Ledbetter spraining the ankle.
Oh yeah, well, did that happen today?
Yeah.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
So word is that he will not be available for the game.
Oh, is he out totally?
What's that?
He's totally out? Man.
Yeah, that's what they were reporting. From what I read, that word is that he's not going to be playing this weekend.
Wow.
So my guess is he'll be out this week, next Middle Tennessee, and then should hopefully be ready by Missouri.
Who's his backup there, Sean or Derrick?
David Marshall, right?
Yeah, I think so. Sounds right.
Or Brenton Cox.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. That guy's a grown-ass man.
Yeah, he is.
All right, guys. Well, hey, that's another. Hey, everybody. I know we don't have that many views. Try to build them up. Please follow us on Herschel Talkers on the Twitter. We're also on YouTube. Hey, we need to get your daughter TK on there to help us out, Sean. Hey, Derrick, I'll send this link to you. Probably post it in the morning. It's on Facebook. Maybe you can put it on the Dawg event you were telling me about. Even if they rip us, because they'll probably say those guys can't speak. We got ripped on Dawg rant last year. I don't really care anymore. But everybody out there, follow us. Try to build the views up, and we'll try to have another episode for you next week. And that's another great episode of Herschel Talkers. Thanks, guys, and we're out.